Don't count the days, make the days count. The words appear on screen, bold and unshakable, as the sound of a crowd roars in the background. The camera cuts to a montage. Muhammad Ali in the gym, sweat dripping as he skips rope with lightning speed. Ali in the ring, fists flying with grace and fury. Ali smiling, his charisma radiating as he delivers one of his famous rhymes. Ali standing tall, defiant, his voice echoing against injustice. This is not just the story of a boxer, it is the story of a man who turned his life into a testament of courage, conviction, and legacy. What makes a man more than a champion? How does one voice echo beyond the ring, beyond the sport, beyond the boundaries of time? Ali's life forces us to confront these questions. He was a paradox, a fighter who preached peace, a man who defied the system yet inspired millions, a warrior who fought not only opponents, but also prejudice, politics, and disease. His fists won titles, but his words won hearts. His victories were not only measured in knockouts, but in the way he stood firm when the world tried to silence him. As the montage continues, we see him refusing to be drafted into the Vietnam War, declaring with unflinching honesty that he had no quarrel with the Viet Cong. We see him stripped of his title, banned from boxing, yet unbroken in spirit. We see him return, reclaiming his crown in legendary battles that became metaphors for resilience. And we see him later, weakened by Parkinson's disease, yet still strong enough to light the Olympic torch, his trembling hands a symbol of unyielding courage. This video is not about boxing records or statistics. It is about the man behind the gloves, the voice behind the bravado, the soul behind the legend. It is about racial justice in a time of segregation, about resistance in a time of war, about faith in a time of doubt, about charisma that transcended sport, and about the transformation of Cassius Clay into Muhammad Ali. Ali's story is a reminder that greatness is not defined by how long we live, but by how deeply we live. He did not count the days, he made the days count. And by the end of this journey, you will see why his legacy continues to inspire generations, why his words still resonate, and why his life remains a beacon of courage and conviction. This is not just the tale of a fighter. It is the story of a man who became the voice of a movement, the face of defiance, and the embodiment of a timeless truth, that to live fully one must make every day matter. America in the 1960s was a nation caught in the grip of profound transformation and turmoil. The civil rights movement was shaking the foundations of racial segregation, demanding equality in schools, workplaces, and public life. Streets echoed with marches, chants, and the voices of leaders like Martin Luther King Jr., while at the same time, the Vietnam War loomed large, dividing the country and forcing young men to choose between obedience to the draft and loyalty to their conscience. It was a decade of tension, of confrontation between tradition and change, of a society struggling to redefine itself. In this atmosphere, boxing stood as a sport deeply rooted in tradition, governed by conformity. His talent was undeniable, his speed unmatched, and his confidence unshakable. By 1960, he had risen to the world stage, winning Olympic gold in Rome, a victory that symbolized hope for his community, but also highlighted the contradictions of America, a country that celebrated his triumph abroad, yet denied him dignity at home. Returning from the Olympics, Clay faced the harsh reality that a medal could not shield him from racism, that his achievements did not erase the color of his skin in a segregated America. Yet rather than accept silence, he embraced defiance. His emergence as a professional boxer was marked not only by his skill, but by his personality: brash, poetic, unapologetic. He taunted opponents with rhymes, predicted the rounds in which he would win, and carried himself with a charisma that demanded attention. But his transformation was not limited to the ring. In 1964, after shocking the world by defeating Sonny Liston to become heavyweight champion, Clay announced his conversion to Islam and his new name, Muhammad Ali. This was more than a personal decision. It was a declaration of independence from the expectations of mainstream America, a rejection of what he called his slave name, and an embrace of a faith and identity that aligned with his convictions. The announcement sparked immediate controversy. Critics accused him of betrayal. The media questioned his loyalty, and many sought to diminish his achievements by refusing to acknowledge his new name. Yet Ali stood firm, embodying the principle that true greatness is not found in conformity, but in authenticity. His defiance was not reckless, it was deliberate, rooted in a belief that his life had to mean more than titles and trophies. Ali's story, therefore, is not simply about fights won or lost in the ring. It is about battles fought outside it, against racism, against war, against the limitations imposed by society. His journey reflects the essence of the phrase, "No cuentes los días, haz los días cuenten." He refused to let time pass without purpose, refused to let his days be measured only in victories or defeats. Instead, he made each moment count, whether by standing up to injustice, inspiring others with his words, or redefining what it meant to be a champion. The introduction to his life is not just the beginning of a boxing career, it is the opening chapter of a legacy that continues to resonate. Ali's emergence in the 1960s was a collision of sport and politics, of personal conviction and public controversy, of a man who dared to be more than what the world expected. His transformation from Cassius Clay to Muhammad Ali was not just a change of name, but a declaration of identity, a refusal to be confined by tradition, and a commitment to live a life that mattered. In telling his story, we are not recounting the days of a fighter, we are witnessing how he made those days count, how he turned his life into a symbol of courage, conviction, and enduring legacy. Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. was born in Louisville, Kentucky, in 1942, into a world where racism and poverty shaped the daily lives of African Americans. His childhood was marked by segregation, where he was reminded constantly of the limitations imposed on him because of the color of his skin. Yet within this environment, a spark was lit when, at the age of 12, his bicycle was stolen, and he angrily declared to a local police officer that he wanted to whop the thief. That officer, Joe Martin, happened to be a boxing trainer, and he introduced the young Clay to the sport that would change his life. Under Martin's guidance, Clay developed discipline, skill, and a relentless work ethic. His amateur career flourished, culminating in his triumph at the 1960 Rome Olympics, where he won a gold medal in the light heavyweight division. That victory was a moment of pride, yet it also revealed the contradictions of America. Clay returned home to a country that celebrated his success abroad but still denied him basic rights at home. As he transitioned into professional boxing, Clay's personality became as much a weapon as his fists. He was brash, loud, and unapologetically confident, predicting the rounds in which he would defeat opponents and taunting them with poetic trash talk. His famous phrase, "Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee," captured not only his style but his spirit. Many dismissed him as arrogant, but over time, his charisma and wit transformed him into a cultural phenomenon. What seemed like arrogance was, in truth, the confidence of a young man determined to carve his place in history, refusing to be silenced or diminished. Clay's rise coincided with his spiritual and political awakening. In the early 1960s, he became involved with the Nation of Islam, a movement that emphasized black pride, self-reliance, and resistance to oppression. His friendship with Malcolm X deepened his understanding of identity and conviction, and in 1964, after defeating Sonny Liston in one of the greatest upsets in boxing history, Clay announced that he had embraced Islam and would no longer be known by what he called his slave name. He was now Muhammad Ali. This transformation was seismic. The name change was not just symbolic, it was a declaration of independence from the expectations of mainstream America. The backlash was immediate and fierce. The media ridiculed him, many refused to acknowledge his new name, and critics accused him of betrayal. Yet Ali stood firm, embodying the principle that authenticity mattered more than acceptance. For marginalized communities, his defiance was inspiring. He became more than a boxer. He became a voice for those who had long been silenced. His identity was inseparable from his activism, and his refusal to conform made him a lightning rod for controversy and admiration alike. Ali's victory over Sonny Liston in 1964 was more than a sporting upset, it was a cultural earthquake. Liston had been seen as unbeatable, a symbol of brute force, while Ali was dismissed as a loudmouth with little chance. Yet Ali's speed, agility, and psychological warfare dismantled Liston, shocking the world. His style was revolutionary. He danced around opponents, relied on reflexes rather than brute strength, and used his mind as much as his fists. He defended his title with flair, captivating audiences not only with his performances but with his personality. He rhymed, joked, and entertained, turning press conferences into theater. Ali was not just a champion, He was a showman redefining what it meant to be a black athlete in America.
He refused to be humble in a society that demanded silence from black men, and in doing so, he became a symbol of pride and resistance.
His fame grew globally, and his voice began to carry beyond the ring, touching on issues of race, justice, and identity.
The defining moment of Ali's life came not in the ring, but in his refusal to fight in the Vietnam War.
In 1967, when drafted, Ali declared, "I ain't got no quarrel with them Viet Cong." His words reverberated across the nation.
He refused to fight a war he believed was unjust, especially when his own people were denied freedom at home. The consequences were devastating. He was stripped of his title, banned from boxing, and faced the possibility of prison.
Financially, he struggled, and publicly, he was vilified by many who saw his stance as unpatriotic. Yet Ali's moral courage shone through. He stood firm in his convictions, becoming a symbol of resistance not only for the civil rights movement, but also for the anti-war movement.
When Ali returned to boxing in the early 1970s, he did so with a renewed sense of purpose.
His comeback was marked by legendary battles that transcended sport. The fight of the century against Joe Frazier in 1971 was more than a clash of two great fighters. It was a cultural event, symbolizing the divisions within America itself. Though Ali lost, his resilience was evident. In 1974, he faced George Foreman in their Rumble in the Jungle, a fight many believed he could not win. Foreman was younger, stronger, and more powerful. Yet Ali employed the brilliant rope-a-dope strategy, absorbing punishment while conserving energy, before unleashing a decisive victory. That fight cemented his status as a tactical genius and a master of psychological warfare.
The thriller in Manila against Frazier in 1975 was perhaps the most brutal fight of his career, a test of endurance and willpower that pushed both men to their limits. Ali emerged victorious, but the toll was immense.
These fights were not just sporting contests, they were metaphors for struggle, resilience, and triumph. Ali's ability to endure, to adapt, and to overcome made him a legend not only in boxing, but in life.
Beyond the ring, Ali's impact continued to grow. He became a global ambassador for peace, traveling the world, meeting leaders, and advocating for justice.
His humanitarian work touched countless lives, from supporting charities to speaking out against oppression.
In the 1980s, Ali was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a cruel condition that robbed him of his physical abilities, but never his spirit. His public vulnerability became another form of courage as he continued to inspire despite his illness. In 1996, he lit the Olympic torch in Atlanta, his trembling hands a powerful symbol of resilience and hope. That moment captured the essence of Ali, a man who, even in weakness, radiated strength. His legacy extended beyond sports into politics, culture, and spirituality. He was a fighter, a poet, a humanitarian, and a symbol of defiance and dignity. Ali's life was a testament to the idea that greatness is not measured in titles but in impact, not in days counted but in days that truly count. His story remains a beacon, reminding us that courage, conviction, and authenticity can change the world. Muhammad Ali's life was never confined to the ropes of a boxing ring. He was more than a boxer. He was an activist, a poet, a humanitarian, and a global icon whose influence stretched far beyond the sport that first gave him a platform. His battles were not only against opponents with gloves, but against racism, against war, and against illness. Each of these struggles revealed a different dimension of his character, showing that his greatness was not measured by the titles he held, but by the courage he displayed when the world demanded silence. Ali's fists may have won championships, but it was his voice, his convictions, and his unwavering authenticity that made him immortal. He taught us that true victory lies in standing firm for what you believe, even when the cost is high. His life was a living embodiment of the mantra, "No cuentes los días, HAZQ los días cuentan." Ali did not let time pass without purpose. Every fight, every speech, every act of defiance was a deliberate step toward making his days matter. Whether it was refusing to fight in Vietnam, reclaiming his crown in legendary battles, or facing Parkinson's disease with dignity, Ali showed that the measure of a man is not in how long he lives, but in how deeply he lives. His story is a reminder that greatness is not about trophies or records, but about impact, about the lives touched, the barriers broken, and the truths spoken. As the video draws to a close, the audience is invited to reflect not only on Ali's legacy, but on their own lives.
His journey inspires us to live with courage, conviction, and authenticity, to make each day count in our own way.
The final montage captures Ali's essence, his radiant smile, his sharp words, his unforgettable fights, and his humanitarian acts that reached across borders and cultures.
The screen fades to black as his voice echoes once more. Don't you count the days, make the days count. It is a call to action, a challenge, and a gift, a reminder that Ali's legacy is not frozen in history, but continues to shape the present,
urging us all to rise, to resist, and to live with purpose.